How you doing, everybody? Um, Let me check. Is the sound okay and the video all right? Hey, Geezer and Abdul and Tony, how you guys doing? Let's see. Hi, John, Jeff, Faree, Indrajit. How are you? Thank you. Oh boy. Get my coffee here. Hmm. So, hey, Clyde, how you doing, man? Hi, Tim. William, good morning. Okay, what I thought would be fun to talk about today, hi Val, um, would be the ability to take a look at a watch, especially by a watchmaker, some new guy who is a watchmaker, not one of these crowd-funded, quickie jobs. those are those are fine. Um, hey Rick. And so you look at this and you see somebody new who's just getting started, but has some real talent. Now, one of the places that I found useful for that is the the waiting list, or the sort of the, I guess, the people who've been accepted to the independent group, and the AHCI, I think is what it is. I won't even try the French. And they've been sort of elevated to the first step, but they haven't been fully admitted yet. One example would be Stefan Kadoki. And yeah, Clyde, there it is. Clyde said it all before I did. And the so I'm thinking, maybe these are the guys we ought to look for. And who knows what's going to happen. One of the ones I think that a lot of us appreciated early on was Lang and Hein. Well, Lang and Hein was Marco Lang, and now Marco Lang is starting up a new company. He left Lang and Hein, and now he's having a new company called Marco Lang. Lang and Hein is still around with nothing but Marco Lang Marco Lang watches, which is sort of a strange thing, but let's face it, the watch business is strange. Any other conclusion, I think you've finally gone nuts. Hi, Evagoras from Cyprus. How you doing, man? Hi, Andrew. So anyway, so I'm thinking, okay, well, these might be some tips. What's the future of Lang and Hein as a company? Man, I do not know. That is a good question. It seems that they've got, I think, about 7 movements that were made by Marco Lang, and I don't know what they're going to do with them. I really don't. I'm not expecting them to come out with any new watches themselves. I think there may be, a few whistles and bells that will be added or subtracted. But when will this, what happens then? I don't know. It's a very confused one. I love Langenheim watches because they're all basically Marco Lang. And I think I mentioned it to you. I got a message from Marco a couple of weeks ago, because I've been talking to him about when he's coming out, and he thought it was going to be mid-October, but he said, things really got slowed down by the pandemic. So who knows? Excuse me, I have a sip of my coffee. Oh, it's got chocolate all over it. All right. Rick had Lang and Hyde. It should be Jekyll and Hyde. Hey, Rio Lobo. All right, from Riverside. One of my sons went to his undergraduate college there. Hey, Maruzio. Sorry I'm late. Yeah, we've been talking about you when you haven't been here, so that's okay. What are our thoughts on ball watches? Ball watches are okay. I think I'm not sure where they're going. I think at one time, Ball was going to be putting in these old Hamilton movements or revising them or something. I really don't know. A lot of the stuff they use now are ETA and Salida movements, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. Sarpanova, Shaken, Brevet Nadeau. Brevet Nadeau, now there's a good example of a guy who is really making these outstanding watches. He makes these watches with these keys that you have to wind them up. He doesn't have the keyless works. He doesn't want to have the keyless works. I think he wanted to make them like, back in the old days. And but the thing is, his watches are really expensive. I mean, he's not some guy who did like Kadoki. I think Kadoki's first watch was like 5,000 to 7,000 euros, somewhere in that neighborhood. Brevet Nadeau's are like, I think they start around $30,000. So that. Hey, Colin, how you doing? A wristwatch check? No, I've got on my H. Moser Endeavor center seconds. There's a wristwatch check. I'm planning to get an independent watch to celebrate me receiving my doctorate. Oh, congratulations, Dr. Abdul. Harboring 2, Kadoki, and Dornbith and Son. Harboring 2 might be a good one, I think, because I've seen the prices creep up of the one that I bought, my Felix. But, not a lot. But there aren't that many around, and they're becoming recognized as like, wow, that's a really good watch to get. And I don't know a single person who bought a Harboring 2 and wasn't delighted with it. So that might be one of those funny things. Brevet Nadeau is no bargain. Yeah, I know. Not at all. But he makes really incredible watches. Hi, Luke. How you doing? Have I heard of Korneth? Yeah, Korneth, I think, is like there's a certain group of German watches, and I happen to like them. In fact, Clyde and I had a little video on German watches, and I think they came up in it. And these are watches that they take, I think they were using ETA 6498s, and then they do an incredible finishing job on them, and they engrave them and so forth. So I don't know if they're going to really be developing other good things. Yeah, Rick, Jaime Ahsoka, his stuff is great, and I think that he may be one. What he has done, I think, is sort of an interesting thing, and I'd like to get your views on it too. He's got a lot of fans in Japan. A lot of kids, they can't afford his watches. I think his Tsunami starts around 20,000, possibly more. He makes beautiful watches. Everything he touches is really pretty. Then he came out with this one. Forgot what the name of it was, but it was like I think it was under $1,000. I mean, really amazingly good deal, right around it, under 2,000 for certain. And I put them for sale in Japan, and they were gone in a minute. I mean, poof, they were gone. But it's the only part that seemed that he really designed was the dial. Now, and then there's either a Seiko or a Miyota movement in it, something like that. So on the one hand, I think it's a wonderful thing that he made something that he had something to do with available for kids who couldn't afford it, but were really big watch fans. And there's something to be said for that. I don't know. Hey Val, what's up? Daniel Niebel, the creator of the independent watch brand Nord Zymaskin in Basel, died about a week ago. I didn't know that. I don't know much about his watches, Val, but it was that's interesting to know. Karuna from Ahsoka is a great deal. Yeah, Abdul, but it's sort of like getting an FP Journe with an ETA movement. I mean, that's so you got a dial that looks like the same style that FP Journe has, but then you put in sort of a mass-produced movement, and what do you got? It's to me, on the one hand, it's a really good thing because these kids aren't going to be able to get these watches any other way. But I don't think. I mean, I've seen them. They'll be snatched up the first day they come out for around, I think, under 2,000. The next thing that happens is that I see them on eBay for 3,000. And so, that kind of stuff is unfortunate, but I still think what Ahsoka is doing is a neat thing. I just sort of like if they made like if FP Journe came out with a watch with some kind of really simple movement and like a hour only, and he put a simple movement in there, but that he could sell them for 5,000. It'd be gone the first day. So I don't know. Hard to say. I tried to get the green limited. Yeah, sold out in seconds. Yeah, those things they're gone. Boom. But on the other hand, these are watches that they're in Japan, and so I think most of them go to the Japanese. So they're really not a lot of. I've talked to some people, and they say they've gone after them several times, and they're gone right away. Try it, yeah. John Benjamin Chi has a magic stuff. Yeah, Benjamin. Benjamin owes me a movement, by the way. He bought some movements, and I thought, hey, could I buy one? And he had to buy a bunch of them, so I said, I'll buy one from him. Still waiting for it. It's only been 2 years. He's got some. What Benjamin Chi can do, I think, what sort of might be the new old. In a way, it's sort of a grouped establishage where you get a piece from here, a piece from here, a piece from here, and put them all together, except you take quality pieces. I think, see, the big complaint about watches that aren't using in-house movements are two things. One, usually the non-in-house movement is a lot cheaper. They'll put in some really cheap movement relative to what they're asking for the watch. That's something I don't think is really makes it any more than a sort of like, as they say, putting lipstick on a pig. On the other hand, you have companies, well, like Hermes, who has these Vaucher movements, or Mont Blanc that has these Minerva movements. Now, and the only thing that drives me nuts is that a lot of times they say, well, I'm not going to say what kind of movement it is. And I think that's crazy. I really do. I think, well, you got a good movement. Now, the watches that you're producing, excuse me, to be sure, are not sort of watchmaker produced. And that's the ones that I think we have to go after. Where is Sin going? I got some people who wanted me to buy a Sin in the worst way. Sin watches are they got nice cases and everything, and but essentially their movements are either ETA or Salida. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, especially with Sin, because when you buy one, you know what you're getting. I think you have to really, with Sin, I think you have to really depend on something on top of it. Now, I tell you, some watch companies, if they had been smart, look at Bulgari did with what's his name, Daniel Roth, okay, and Gerald Genta. It's the most stupid use of a really top watchmaker. Uh, they hired the guy. They hired Daniel Roth. He was there for a year. Had some brilliant things that they developed, and there was always conflict between him, I think, and the guy who saw himself as the main watchmaker, who lacked Ross's brilliance. And so that ended very quickly, unfortunately. And I think, unfortunately, not only for, well, maybe not unfortunately for Roth, because now he's making nothing but these wonderful tourbillons. He makes one or two a year, and they're already sold before he even starts on them. So that I think is a happy ending to a watchmaker's career, doing what you want to do. So we got guys like Kerry Wooten-Lannon and Gerbel and Forsay, Groenfeld brothers. These guys are talent out the yin yang, but their prices are already high. So what we need to do is figure out, okay, let's see if we can find somebody just coming in on the bottom. The wages of Jesus, Clyde. Okay. If the movement goes bad, it won't be worth to get it repaired if you even find a watchmaker that is ready to fix it. Well, you know what you can do, Val? You just get a new one. I mean, like $25, put it in. Hey, Greg, what's up? Had a question for a live chat. Only like a 40 to 42 millimeter on the center side. Thoughts under $5,000 new or used that I don't lose so much money if I don't connect and get a good sale. Oh boy, Greg, there are lots of watches. I got one that I think is fabulous for under 5,000. And that was, I got it's in my watch box. I can't get to it right now. And that's my Daniel Roth chronograph with a, what is it? An El Primero movement. Okay. So it's under 5,000. Well under 5,000 if you want to negotiate. So we would let him make some more collaborations. Yeah, Val, that's a good point. The group of us who are working, by the way, too, if you're working on that group project, we're trying to get all of our ducks in a row on that one before we can go back to them. So if you are interested, go to our website that is called, what is it called? It's a Facebook page called Jumping. It's called the Retrograde Minute Jumping Hours Project. I think that's what's the name of the FB page. Go there and say I want to get one, and I'm willing to put down $6,000 or $7,000. That's the problem. I mean, that's just for the movement. You can put the rest of it together. I'd email a question, let them chew on it rather than bring it up on a live stream. Okay. Sounds like a better idea, Val. Okay. Look at Oris. Yeah, Oris with that, I guess it's starting with the 110 series. They got 110, 111, so forth. And that looks pretty good to me. It really does. I tell you, though, thanks, Jersey. The thing about companies, okay, and I mean even the best, you don't get too many really innovative kind of movements out of them. Sometimes you do, and I think I would include the 5100 that Vacheron Constantin made for its overseas, because they really did. I mean, they did it from soup to nuts. but you don't get that too often. And that movement will probably be used from here to doomsday. The same with the Rolex. Rolex has some nice solid movements that have been sort of redone and redone and redone over the years. So you're really not getting a lot of innovation in terms of some of the basics of the movement. One of the reasons is that if you put in a really revolutionary, even a module, man, you got to retool a lot of your machinery so that you can put the watch together. Now, I think one exception, or a couple of exceptions, I still think, much to the disdain of Rolex collectors, that the Rolex Yachtmaster 2, with its countdown mechanism, I think is brilliant. So you see it every now and then. And I think Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and like I mentioned, Vacheron Constantin 10. But, you know, when you see a guy like Marco Lang crank out 6 or 7 movements in the short number of years that that he was with Lang and Heim, you know, I'm thinking, you know, what are your thoughts on skeletalized movement and tourbillon? Too many on the market, not worth the money. Tony, yeah, that's the one. Jumping retrograde project. That's it, Tony. Thank you. John, what are your thoughts on the skeletalized movements? No me gusta. They're not my cup of tea. Some people like them. There's some of the open, what they call open something or other, where you can see all the movements like they have on the those beautiful brigade traditions. You're looking at what I think that Abraham Louis Breguet would, came right out of his workshop. I love those things. That's the interesting thing about Breguet. A lot of its best designs were by Daniel Roth. Daniel Roth came to rescue Breguet from oblivion, and he was successful. And then he went and did something else, but he did rescue it. Many skeletons are hard to read. Yeah, that's probably my biggest beef with them. I have some watches that are hard to read because the dials are very small. This one, I was afraid was going to be hard to read. It's easy as pie. The brown, I thought the brown and gold wouldn't have enough, but it's very simple. The one that we passed around, wonderful watch by Rolf Lang. It's a beautiful watch, great. But the gray and silver, man, it was really hard to read. You had to get it just at the right angle. Oh, okay, Jeffrey. I tried one on at a watch show a couple of years ago, and I thought it was fine. But it's as old as I am, so it looked okay. Oh, yeah. No, that I think hard to read watches aren't too practical in certain ways. There's two kinds that are hard to read. One is where they got the contrast between the dial plate and the hands are just, they just don't work together. And other ones, then you have a lot of skeletonized ones. You can't read at all. This is why, who is it? There's one watch, a very expensive, very popular, and most of their stuff is skeletonized, and I can't read them at all. And I have no idea why they're both expensive or popular, but they are. Many skeletons are hard to read unless you're a forensic anthropologist. Yeah. Unless you're the CSI guy. What time is it? Any other people that are on the horizon who haven't wised up to the fact that they are talented and they can charge ridiculous amounts and get it, that are around, that you might be able to think of. Like I said, Kudoki's stuff is starting to creep up. I know that both Kudoki and Marco Lang live in Dresden. In fact, I think Marco Lang simply went home to his old workshop before they opened up that shop that is now taken over by the new owners of Lang and Heim. And another thing that Lang and Heim have is really nice that there may be a way to get my mitts on one if I could. Is that what's it called? I think it's called the Urek or something like that. It's at 33.1. That nice little movement. That would be really cool if Marco Lang came out with something like that. Maybe I'll see if I can talk him into it. Say, hey, look, this is what we need. That movement on the Georg on the back, and have those little finger bridges holding each one of that. Why don't you sell that to hobbyists like us, either as a movement or an Bosch? And it would be the greatest thing in the world to have. UWD, thank you, Indigit. That's exactly right. The UWD, the 33.1, I think is what they call it. Then the 33.2 was going to be their center second, but they never came out with it. So, copy. Okay. Anyone else? Where might be a place to look? Are there? We looked at Germans, Swiss, like what's his name? That guy who, hi, Aman. Thank you. What's his name? How come people can't have simple names like George or something like that? We got all these wonderful watchmakers with difficult names. Oh boy. Can't think of it. I can't think of the name. Abdul R. Yeah, that's a simple name. Ming. Ming is a possibility. I think Ming is one to watch. Also, I think China as a whole is worth watching. There are some Chinese watchmakers who are AHCI members, either on a waiting list or in. And one guy who's this older guy who seems to, every time he turns around, he comes back from lunch with a new movement. So he had one listed in the Grand Prix this year. So I thought, well, boy, this guy's neat. And it's sort of like supposed to be an alternative or an improvement on not Daniel, but George Daniels' a coaxial. Okay. But he said it's not a coaxial, it's something else. And so I was reading all about it. I thought, wow, this is going to be interesting. And, here's this guy, Chinese, who, what does he know? he knows $30,000. I thought, holy smoke. I guess they got to him ahead of time. He said, look, you got some real talent here. Stay away from people like Bill Sanders, coming along and try to lowball you. Hey, Andrew, what's up? A Dornbus is sewn with a translucent ceramic deal. You can just about see the movement. Might be a decent alternative to skeletonized Talbots. Not everybody's price range. Well, Dornbus and Son are still within, they're still within our in our solar system. I'll put it that way. Yeah, Ming has some great dials. They really do. Now, if Ming and an Asian watchmaker got together, they might be able to put together something really special. But the Chinese have both a history and the talent for putting together some amazing watches, especially some of the independents. I mean, these guys, they have guys like Ahsoka, and they're going to be coming out, and so we got to keep an eye out for them and grab them before they wise up. I don't know. Sometimes I think they put me on a wanted poster in a Chinese post office. Watch out for this guy. He's a cheapo. The movement is the heart of the watch, the dial in case of the soul. I don't know. They might be. I don't know. To me, the movement is a great deal. Like I mentioned before, lipstick on a pig. You can take a so movement and put a beautiful case and dial around it and have something that people will admire. But to me, such a watch has no soul. But that's me. Not everybody's that way. You like you put your lipstick on your pig and go out. So look what I got. Uh, oh, let's see. I like some of the new Fears watches, but the prices they want for ETA movement, make me want to cry. Tears for Fears. Oh man. But that's true. You see these things, and you're right, Clyde. They have ETAs, and I don't think they're able to get ETAs for much longer. But I think if they have, what I'd like to see is like that Soprod M100 is the old Soprod A10, but they don't tell you that's what it is, and they should, because that's really it's got a neat movement in it, and it's not an ETA, and it's not a clone of an ETA. It has, the only thing it had to do with ETA is a certain, so so it would fit the cases that ETAs went into. Akriva, Geezer, that's the person I was trying to think of. Akriva. When I did that interview on asking everyone why the really top-notch watchmakers used 18,000 BPH as opposed to 28,000 4 hertz. They use 2.5 hertz. He was one of the guys I interviewed, and a very interesting guy. This was, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. And his watches, though, are just really wonderful. To me, the movement is what truly gives a watch life. Otherwise, it's considered a quartz. Yeah, this is the thing, Andrew. I agreed with you. You can get a beautifully run watch, great watch. By the way, too, I just got my issue of the Europa Star. It's a business magazine on the watch business, and it's a great magazine. I mean, they have some really great stories. Like here's one. It's called 1984, when Gerald Junta challenged the watchmaking establishment. Now you can get this. This is really funny. I'd been getting it for a long time. He says, okay, we're going to start charging for it. Now, the thing is full of ads. And so I think, okay, my looking at it pays for the ad. I mean, the ads pay for my subscription. And so, I didn't say anything. I said, they wanted me to check things off. How do you want to pay for this? I just forgot about it. So they kept sending it to me anyway. So if you can somehow get in there, and it's a great magazine they have great stories and a lot of good information. Okay. Yeah, DG&B. Some of them, though, when you say independent watchmakers are not cheap, they're not cheap in two ways. They don't use cheap materials and they don't use cheap talent. But then you take Harbring too. Now, relatively speaking, that's one of the best deals around. And I think that it's for those who are looking for investments, I think it's a heck of a good investment because, who you got working there? Richard, Marie, and Felix the cat. I don't know how many. It's just a little bitty shop in Austria. And they make these wonderful watches. It's still the most accurate purely mechanical watch I have. So I think it's not a watch to pass on. If you go to the used watches, you don't find any, and the ones you do find are either the same or higher prices than they were when you got them. So I don't know. Yeah, the finishing is very Spartan. I agree, Andrew. The finishing on Harbring 2s are Spartan. That's the best way I can put it. But I still like it as a watch, and sort of as the whole concept. There you can see Richard and Marie working on the old thing, as opposed to some machine crunching out, something like that. I don't know. Well, listen, guys, just something to think about. I think next week we better, go to the jumping hour retrograde jumps or jumping retrograde, whatever I name that site. And I'll go back to Agenor and see what we can do. Desmo, join us at the I think it's 2000 10 p.m. Time in Geneva, or 4 o'clock. We'll have another discussion. If you're awake still by then, join us then. I don't want to sound like a snob, but I still have a hard time to replace my Rolex Submariner with something else. I haven't worn it. You don't sound like a snob. I mean, how could somebody with a Rolex sound like a snob? It's hard to do. Anyhow, okay. Are there any U.S. based watchmakers on the radar? Some guy, I think, in California and another guy in Oregon are doing some interesting stuff. So anyway, got to run, guys. If you're around at 4 o'clock New York time, I'll be back. Take care and stay safe.